This is CBT News special coverage of the 2023 NADA Show.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick on location at the 2023 NADA show in Texas, in Dallas, Texas, I might add, the big state. Everything's big here, right? We are joined by Andy Wright, who's the managing partner at Vinart Dealerships. You've seen this gentleman on CBT News many times. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us on the show.
It's great to be with you. It's great to be here with you at NADA, and thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, dealers are so excited. They're out here. They've had a couple of great years, a few great years.
Yeah,
right? I mean, you're one of them.
Yeah,
and they're buying things from vendors. Vendors are excited. What most excites you about the show this year?
Well, I mean, just the electricity in the place. No pun intended. With everything EV going on.
I know.
But just the electricity in the place is great to see. I mean, everybody is obviously enthusiastic about the future of the industry, the current state of the industry, and I think that that bodes well for us going into the future. But certainly, what I'm most excited about, and having an opportunity to be here and see all the great products, the great software systems that are on display.
Sure.
But really talking to the people that are involved in this industry, really engrossed in it, and just the opportunities that the future presents here in terms of ways we can make our operations more efficient. Certainly, I think there's a lot of discussion about stripping cost out of the process, whether it's to sell a car or service a car.
That's right.
And I think there's a lot of opportunities going forward for us to bring new people into the industry. And as you well know, and I'm very much an advocate for the industry, and I think that we have a great story to tell to people that are maybe on the fence about a career choice.
Yeah.
And retail automotive, Jim, continues to just represent a fantastic opportunity for people that are unsure about their future.
That's
so
right.
a lot of discussion revolving around that as well.
That's great. That's great. I can't tell you how many times I've interviewed people now that are today dealer principals. Maybe they've got one store, or maybe they've got 20 stores.
Yeah. That
started out, maybe they didn't go to college, but they got into the auto industry, loved it, and here they are, dealer principals today, right? I mean, the path, the career path for somebody getting in the industry is incredible.
That's right. You know, I mean, hey, listen, there's plenty of examples of that.
Yeah.
It's great to see. I mean, listen, I look at nowadays versus when my dad got in the business 40 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, investment-wise, it's a little different.
It is,
to say the least.
That's
but
right.
You know, there were some great stories this week alone in automotive news about all these first-time dealers that are here at the show.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
yeah, I mean, the industry is still wrought with opportunity for anybody that wants to put the work in and roll the dice.
You know, there's a lot of opportunity, especially even though these stores now are, you know, north of $25 million in many cases. There are dealers that will sponsor and support GMs that want to become a dealer principal, give them 5% or 10% or whatever the number might be to go out and run the dealership, and then have an earn out over, you know, a 7 to 10 year period of time.
That's right.
Those are alive and well, right?
Totally. There's one, no doubt about it. I know just in discussions with, you know, my peer group, my 20 group, people that I know in this industry and respect. I mean, those are conversations that are being had at a very high level, at a strategic level, and that's what it takes to really grow, but grow the right way. I mean, it's one thing to go out and just, you know, buy a story. I tell people all the time, you know, believe it or not, writing the check's the easy part. It's running them that's the challenge.
That's right.
And, you know, you got to have good people to do that.
That's right.
And it's still a people business at its core.
It is.
And so, yeah, it's great to see.
So you've come off a number of great years here in 2020, 2022, 2021, and now we're in 2023. Things might be a little bit different. You know, some of the analysts that we're talking to are talking about the possibility of this looming recession, and I know dealers are like, that's nothing, you know, we got this. But the reality is that interest rates are increasing and gas prices remain high, and there's some nervousness out there. We're starting to see some layoffs, although the job market is still pretty strong. What is your take on the year ahead?
Sure. So I think, you know, everybody needs to resist the temptation to be cavalier about the State of the Union, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some headwinds that are out there. Certainly interest rates are a big one that's impacting affordability, right? But I think that all signs are indicating that a significant recession or a severe recession is probably not necessarily in the cards.
Yeah.
So what are we going to be dealing with? I think we're going to be dealing with tempered demand. I certainly think that the used car market is in the midst of adjustment, which is long overdue because prices got absolutely crazy. So I think as we start to see things adjust there, there's going to be opportunities in the used car business, and I think that's where we're ultimately going to have to go and get really good at in order to address the affordability issues that are out there on new cars. And then, you know, as new cars go, the discussions are already starting with our OEM partners, and much to their chagrin, we have to start talking about incentives and go-to-market strategies that are going to effectively address what's going on with respect to affordability. Leasing, I mean, Cox published their study, I think it was 2 weeks ago, about the State of the Union, the state of the industry. 21% lease penetration in this market right now, Jim, with the affordability issues we're having. That's not sustainable. That number needs to grow. It almost needs to double back to what it was 2-3 years ago.
And you would think it would.
You would think.
When you would think usually the affordability, going up on these vehicles, you would think that would dovetail perfectly with, leasing is going up.
That's right.
But we're not necessarily seeing that.
Yeah, I think that's a function of, listen, the OEMs are wholesaling every car that they're building right now. Days to turn is still, close to all-time low levels. So right now they're sitting back and they're going, why should we take on the risk?
On the residuals.
Why should we take the residual risk? Why should we take on the financial burden of the subsidized money factor? So these are all conversations though that they're starting to happen with increased frequency. I'm not necessarily saying that there's action happening, but there's discussion happening, and that's appropriate. And I think we're going to start to see more action here, definitely in the second half, if not sooner.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. In terms of EVs, and we've talked about the EV situation here. That's now upon us. Every vehicle or every OEM out there is got a very strong EV strategy, or at least most of them. Toyota is kind of one of those, we'll take a wait and see what's going on here. On the same way. But it seems as though we're going to be selling EVs. If we're having this discussion 5 years from now, you're going to be saying, hey, more than 50% of my sales are in EVs, right? Is that a safe assumption?
Well, that's what the prognosticators are saying. We'll see if that comes true or not. But if the consumers might have a different story in mind, but we'll see what happens. But it's definitely plausible.
Sure.
Yeah.
What do you, as a dealer, what concerns you about that? Anything?
I think, listen, I think EVs are here. I think they're here to stay. I think, long-term viability, proliferation, however you want to characterize it, remains to be seen. We still have significant challenges with charging infrastructure. And I think that the primary factor that is prohibiting larger scale adoption and proliferation of EVs is charging parity. So I think that once we have parity in how an EV is charged versus if you refuel your gas-powered engine, until we have parity in that refueling process, that's going to be a major impediment to larger scale adoption. But I do think that as more products come out, consideration is definitely up. Again, you look at the Cox survey that was just the Cox study.
More people are saying, I would look at an EV.
But then you couple that with the challenges posed by the Inflation Reduction Act. And there's now a well-established, identified loophole in that law where if the vehicles are leased, they qualify for the $7,500, regardless of all the other factors that are in that bill about the batteries, where the mining, where the raw materials come from.
What was your income?
So that all goes out the window if the vehicle is leased, which is interesting. So going back to our earlier discussion about leasing and how leasing needs to make a comeback in order to address affordability.
That will do it.
That will do it. But it's of particular importance to EVs because listen, the average EV is transacting at it's like $58,000 or something right now. I mean, it's astronomically higher than the average industry transaction price. So the only way I think we can overcome the affordability issue on EV is to get better at leasing these things.
I would agree.
We'll see if that happens.
And that's really what Tesla has done. When you go into Tesla, they start talking leasing right off the bat. Like it's almost like an iPhone where you don't want to buy the phone, just make payments on it, and then we'll give you a new one. Well,
I'm a big believer in leasing. I mean, in the area of the country I operate, leasing has always been popular. And as a dealer, listen, it gives us multiple bites of the apple. We get to sell them the new one, we get to help service them, we get it CPO'd coming off the backside, put them in a new one. It's the old airplanes in the air adage, and so leasing I think is a good thing for the industry. It keeps the cycle going. So hopefully it comes back in a much more robust fashion. Before I let you go, talk to us a little bit about your efforts with the NADA and STAR. Touch on that for just a moment, because I know you're making some great advances there. So we had our STAR Symposium on Wednesday, all-time record attendance, which is great to see.
That's great.
The momentum behind the issue of a standardized data model that will power the future of automotive retail, how we exchange information between all the stakeholders, dealers, OEMs, certainly the technology companies, so many of which are represented here today and this weekend at NADA. Everyone that I've talked to is in agreement that we are long overdue for a data standard for a standardized data model
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
will facilitate
Yeah.
the exchange of that information in an efficient fashion. Because the way we're doing it right now, it's more expensive,
Right.
and it's nowhere near as efficient. If you're a vendor and you have to write 300 different integrations for 300 different companies or different dealers,
that is crazy.
versus writing one integration
Right.
300 times,
Right.
which one do you think is going to be more efficient
That's right.
and less costly?
That's right.
I think the answer is pretty clear.
Yeah,
so
there's no question.
it's time to move on this.
As it has already taken place in other industries,
Correct.
right? Sometimes retail automotive or the automotive industry is slow to move on issues like
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
And but it's great that you're working on that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I see it every day when
Yeah.
I operate my dealerships, and
Yeah.
I interface with my vendor partners and the
Yeah.
challenges we have, and just, the data is so important, and it's only going to get more important as data is the backbone of everything we do.
Yeah.
And the timing is right. We have to get this accomplished. So,
Have
and
you-
Jeff Bahanka, our new chairman of NADA, is very much in favor of this,
Yeah,
very much
I
behind
know,
it,
I
and
know.
that's great to see because we need his leadership,
That's right.
and we're going to get it.
That's
so that's
right.
exciting too.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of stores, so
Yeah, he
knows.
sure
There's
does.
no question about it.
Yeah.
Have you had salespeople come in yet and say, "Hey, boss, this isn't the same as when you hired me back in late 2020. This it's a little different bolt. People are asking for discounts out here."
Yeah, the answer to that is yes, and so
In the
now
training. We gotta
exactly,
get in the
it's
training,
back
right?
to reality, back to
That's right.
pre-COVID times,
That's
and
right.
listen, it's still a great industry
It
with
is.
tons of opportunity.
That's right.
And I just love this business so much,
I know,
and
I
being
know.
here and getting an opportunity to come on your show and talk about these fun
Well,
issues.
we certainly
and
appreciate
it's
it.
just good stuff.
Let's
so.
keep it going in 2023.
Amen to that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. So Andy Wright, managing partner at Vinart Dealerships. That is a name I know that you know. You've seen this gentleman on CBT News. Man, let's keep it going.
Hey, thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks.
Alrighty.
Thanks for watching our special coverage of the 2023 NADA show. Join the #1 most watched newscast in the automotive industry. CBT News, 10 years strong. Subscribe today.